All right, let's talk about something you use every single day, probably without even realizing it. It's one of the most important, yet kind of invisible pieces of technology that makes the modern internet tick. We're talking about JSON, the data format that's basically the scaffolding for almost every app and website you touch.
You know how your social media feed just updates? Like new posts just appear without you having to hit refresh? Or how your weather app has the latest forecast the second you open it? Well, the secret behind that magic is, most of the time, this really simple, super elegant text format. It's what lets different apps and servers talk to each other seamlessly. And yeah, that secret is JSON. So let's get into it.
Okay, so here's the game plan. First, we'll break down what JSON actually is. Then we'll get into why it totally took over and became the standard. After that, we'll see how apps actually use it, look at a couple of common mistakes you'll want to avoid, and wrap things up by seeing where JSON is hiding in plain sight out there in the real world.
All right, first things first, let's start at the very beginning. When we talk about JSON, what are we even looking at? Well, it really all comes down to structure.
So, JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Now, don't let the name fool you. Yeah, it came from JavaScript, and it works perfectly with it, but the key thing to remember is that it's totally language independent now. It's a universal standard. Python, Java, C#, you name it, pretty much every major programming language uses it.
Okay, the whole idea of JSON boils down to this one super simple concept, a key-value pair. Think of it like a label and the thing it's labeling. The key is the label. It has to be a string in double quotes. Then you have a colon and then the value. You wrap that whole thing in curly braces and boom, you've got a JSON object. That's the fundamental building block.
So what can that value actually be?
Well, you've got a few options, and this is where the flexibility comes in. It can be a simple string of text, like hello world. It can be a number, like 42. It could be a Boolean, just true or false. It can even be an array, which is basically a list of other values. Or you can nest things and have the value be a whole other object. And finally, if there's nothing there, you can just use null. That's it. That simple set of rules is what makes it so powerful.
So you might be wondering, how did this super simple format become like the undisputed king of data on the internet? I mean, it wasn't always a given. There was actually a bit of a battle for data supremacy, and JSON won, hands down. For a few really good reasons.
Yeah, and this quote from Web Dev Simplified just hits the nail on the head. It's used because it's extremely lightweight, easy to read, and it also integrates very nicely with JavaScript. That's pretty much the whole story right there. It's small, it's simple for people to understand, and it was born from the language of the web. A perfect storm, really. And you can really see why when you look at it next to the old way of doing things, which was a format called XML. Just look at this. On the left, XML is, well, it's clunky. You've got all these opening and closing tags for everything. It's just noisy. And then on the right, you have the exact same information in JSON. It's just clean, it's compact, you immediately get it. And here's the kicker. Less text literally means smaller file sizes, which means faster websites and apps for all of us. So to wrap this part up, JSON just totally hit the sweet spot. It's simple enough for a human developer to glance at and know exactly what's going on, but it's also perfectly structured and lightweight, which makes it super efficient for computers to read and process. It's really the best of both worlds. Easy for humans, fast for machines.
Okay, so we've covered the what and the why. Now let's get into the how. How do applications actually use this stuff? How do they speak the language of JSON? Well, it's a two-way street of turning text into something useful and back again.
So imagine a server needs to send some data over to your browser. First, it has to package it up for travel. This is called serialization. It basically just takes the data and turns it into one long, simple string of text, just like this. Right now, it's just letters and symbols, not super useful on its own. But then comes the magic part. To actually bring that data to life, the app uses a command. In JavaScript, it's json.parse. Think of it like a translator. It takes that boring string of text and instantly transforms it into a living, breathing object that the program can work with. Now, it can easily grab the name, the age, or whatever else is in there. And it works the other way too. Let's say you fill out a form on a website and hit submit. The application needs to send that info back to the server. It starts with a nice, structured data object living inside the app's code. And to get it ready to send across the internet, it does the exact opposite. It uses a command like JSON stringify. This takes the object and flattens it back into that simple, clean text string. So it's this constant dance, parse, stringify, that makes everything feel so seamless and fast. Okay, so JSON is simple, right? But here's the catch. It's also incredibly strict.
One tiny mistake, one misplaced comma or quote, and the whole thing can just break. So let's go over a couple of the most common trip-ups that you'll definitely want to avoid.
First one, and this gets a ton of people, especially if you're used to JavaScript. The keys, the labels on the left, they have to be in double quotes. No exceptions. Not single quotes, not no quotes. Always, always double quotes.
All right, mistake number 2, the trailing comma. This one's tricky because a lot of modern programming languages are totally fine with it. You can have a comma after the very last item in a list, but not in JSON. Nope, the last key value pair cannot have a comma after it. It's a tiny detail, but it's a syntax error, and it will fail every single time.
And you know, once you get past those hard and fast syntax rules, it's important to remember this little piece of wisdom. How you actually structure your data, like what you name your keys or how you nest your objects, isn't really about a right way or a wrong way. It's more about making smart choices that make sense for whatever you're building.
So we've got the what, the why, and the how. But where do you actually find JSON in the wild? The short answer? Pretty much everywhere.
I mean, it is the default language for pretty much any modern API, whether it's REST or GraphQL. It's also hiding in the configuration files for tons of the apps you use, telling them how to behave. Even video games use it to store data about characters or levels. And it's even used for super secure stuff.
A really cool example is something called a JSON Web Token, or JWT for short. Basically, it's a way to securely bundle up some information, like your user ID, into a JSON format. Then it gets signed with a secret key to prove that it's legit and hasn't been tampered with. This is actually a huge part of how websites keep you logged in as you click around from page to page.
So here's the big takeaway from all of this. Understanding JSON isn't just for coders anymore. It's really become a kind of foundational digital literacy. If you want to have any idea how the modern digital world actually works, how all this information flies around, you need to have a basic grasp of JSON.
You know, JSON was a huge success because it was way simpler and more efficient than what came before it. It solved a problem. But technology never, ever stands still. Which leaves us with a really interesting question to think about. As our apps get more and more complex, what comes next? What will the data language of tomorrow look like? What's going to be the next JSON?